morning. Welcome once again to our midweek service, which we are doing in form of a psychological talk. And my name is Susan Njeri Kibe from the Anglican Church of Kenya, St. Christopher, Mathare North Parish. I want to thank Reverend Kibe for his continued support in giving me this platform so that we can share one or two things that are affecting our psychological being, especially in this era of COVID-19. And I'm aware that Sunday was Mothering Sunday, and I hope that we all celebrated our mothers. I am hoping that children were able to celebrate their mothers. I'm hoping that husbands were able to celebrate their wives who have become mothers and who are prospective mothers. And I'm hoping that even the mothers were able to celebrate the husbands or the fathers of their children, because they are the ones who enabled them to become mothers. I celebrated my Mothering Sunday, and I remembered especially my late mom, who has gone to be with the Lord, and I missed that opportunity to celebrate with her. But God gave me opportunity to reflect on the impact of my mother in my life, and especially how she brought us up. When I look at where I am in my life and what has been going on in my life, and especially the successes that God has brought in my life, I could not help but celebrate the parenting that my mother did to me. And I asked myself, if my mother was around during this COVID-19, and if I was slightly younger and living in her house, how would she have done it? How would she have parented me, now that I owe who I am to a lot of the parenting that my mother gave to me? And that made me become more sensitive towards the topics that I have been giving. And I began to say it would be good for us just to look at how parenting, how we need to do our parenting in this special season of the COVID-19. And I remembered two things, two seasons in my life, two things that happened in my life during my time, and how my mom reacted towards them. And one of them was in I think it must have been 1976 or thereabouts. I think I was around class 5 or class 6, and there was an earthquake. And I remember it happened at 7 p.m. in the evening. And I remember all of us running outside because the house was shaking very, very vigorously. And we ran out, including my mom. And finally, when we came back in the house, we were so shaken. We were shaken. And I remember my mom, she was also shaken. But she was able to sit us down and explain to us what was happening. And she was able to comfort us. And she was able to hold us close to her chest. And she was able to even remind us, especially God's influence and God's greatness, even in times of trouble, because that was a time of trouble for us. The second season that I remember very well, this one happened a year after that. And one of my very best friends, in fact she was my best friend that time, and we used to go for tuition together. So one day we were supposed to go for tuition, and she arrived to the tuition venue earlier than me, and she decided to go and buy some sweets so that we could enjoy the sweets together. And she needed to cross the road. And so because she was in a hurry, she was hit by a car and she died on the spot. And that thing hit me. It hit me so badly. And I remember now as a psychologist, when I look at the symptoms that I had, I think I was getting into depression. And I remember my mom's input during the whole thing. I remember my mom comforting me. I remember that was the first time I tried to have a view of what death is, because my mom explained to me. She explained to me about death. She did not hide anything from me. She did not run away. She did not consider me so young to be told what death is all about. Why am I bringing all these stories? I am trying to imagine what our children are going through during this COVID-19 season. And I'm imagining the many questions that they are having in their heads. What is COVID? Why are we not being allowed to go and play with other children? Why are we not going to school? Why are we being told to wear masks? And some of them are not even wearing the masks or sanitizing or washing their hands properly because nobody is telling them the importance of doing so. And so probably even as I get into the whole of the topic of parenting, I want to ask as parents, how much information have you given to your children? Or are we considering them so young that they may not understand what is going on around them? And of course I want to stress the importance of communication to our children, because everything that we do to our children, whether it is giving instructions, whether it is punishing them where we need to punish them, whether it is guiding them where we need to guide them, all these things rotate around communication. And therefore I want to stress the importance of being able to communicate. Communicate. Let your child learn the important things of life through you as the parent. Do not wait for the media to do it. The media is misguiding. I have realized that even the cartoons that our children are watching these days, some of them have inappropriate content for our children. Some of them, as I have now had opportunity to watch many of them because I'm in the house, I have realized that most of them are having even sexual content. I would like you parents to be able to watch the cartoons that your children are watching. Don't say that they are children related, and we have all these Tabi, we have a Ben 10, we have all those cartoons. Kindly take time and watch, because some of them are having inappropriate content. That is why I'm saying, do not wait for cartoons, the media, our teachers. In fact, even as I talk about the teachers, children are not having contact with the teachers now. So take it upon yourself as the parent to be able to communicate to your children the important things about life and what is happening around them. Now, when we come to parenting, the Bible is so clear on how God intends parenting to be done. And based on the feedback that I have been receiving from you people, the people who have been viewing the talks that I have been giving, and I want to commend everybody who has reached out to me to give me feedback. So I have received some feedback that has made me incorporate a few changes in the way I will be doing the talks. And one of the changes is that probably I will be doing a series based on a particular topic. And so on this series of parenting in the COVID-19 season, allow me to give short presentations, but probably break them down into series. And I hope I will be able to do that starting from today. And therefore today I just want us just to look at what parenting is, what God says about parenting, and what psychology even says about parenting. And because of the psychologist aspect, I will dwell more on the psychological part. And so when we go to Psalm 127, and I want to concentrate on verse 3 to verse 7, I would like you to read. And as I paraphrase it, because I'm sure you know it, especially as Anglicans, because when a woman is coming to present her child after childbirth, that is the psalm that is usually read. And if I were to summarize and paraphrase it, it just talks about children being a heritage and a reward. And therefore, when God gives us children, and by the way, it is not a must for God to give us children. I know you are aware that sometimes God does not allow us to get our own biological children. And therefore, when God gives you a child, whether it's through biological avenue or whether it is adoption avenue, sometimes you have to take care of your brother's children or your sister's children. You are already a parent, and these children are a heritage. They are a reward, and therefore God expects us to treat them as such. And I don't know, when you have a heritage, like when your parent leaves you a piece of land, I want to imagine how you take it so seriously, and you guard it, and you till it with all the effort. You want to see fruits out of it, because it is something precious. You have been given something precious. And that is how God expects us to treat our children, to celebrate them all the time, to be happy for them all the time, whether it is during challenging moments like these COVID-19 moments. God expects us to celebrate these children. He expects us to treat them with care, to treat them as a heritage, the way you would take care of a gift that you have been given by somebody. And therefore I want to start by challenging us that let us celebrate our children. Let us not look at them as if they are a burden to us, and especially this moment when they have to stay at home and when we have to still take care of them, and we have to even go out of our way to look for resources to bring them up. Let us change our mindsets and begin to treat our children as a heritage, as a gift that God has given us. So we celebrate their presence. We celebrate even when they do not listen to us, when they do not obey, when they are all over the place running around. Imagine they are still a heritage. And God expects us to bring them up in the right way. And I do not want to dwell so much on that, because we will be dwelling on that probably next time. But I want to bring to your attention the story of somebody in the Bible who was not very vigilant on how he did his parenting, and God was not happy with him. And this particular story, you can get it in 1 Samuel, the book of 1 Samuel. It runs across many chapters, but we are talking about Eli, who was a servant of God. But Eli neglected his parenting duty. He did not guide and guard his children appropriately the way God would have wanted. And God was angry with him. He was so angry with him until he punished him, including his own death and the death of his children. They all died on the same day. And this was because God was angry that he did not parent his children the way they were supposed to be parented. And therefore God is keen. He is so keen that we do our parenting appropriately. In fact, in Malachi chapter 2, verse 13 to 16, it again talks about God desiring that children be brought up in the context of a marriage situation, so that they can become godly offsprings. So God expects us to bring up our children very well. So what is parenting? And maybe that is where I will end with today, so that next week we can continue further. In psychology, one of the psychologists defines parenting as providing physical, emotional, moral and spiritual care in a way that leads to a child's total development. Okay, total development, and then independence, and then into a responsible citizenship. So I don't know whether you have been able to capture those aspects. We are talking about providing physically to the child. We will be talking more about physical provision to the children. Remember, I've said this is a series. But even as I mentioned, I would like you to start imagining yeah, during this COVID-19, what is it that you will do differently? Yeah, what is the COVID-19 season asking of you in terms of physical provision for your children? Then we are also talking about emotional, providing emotional care. Okay, yeah, emotional care. You know, in Kiswahili emotions are called hisia. Sijui kana kwamba wewe ukiangalia mtoto unaelewa ya kwamba kuna mahitaji that relate to hisia za huyo mtoto. Children have feelings, okay, and that's why I started by asking, have you communicated to your children effectively? Because whatever is happening is affecting their feelings. When you tell them they cannot go out to play with the other children, that is already affecting their feelings. Some of them may be feeling sad. Some of them may be feeling angry. Some of them may be feeling neglected. So psychology is telling us that parenting involves the emotional care of the child. It also involves the moral care. You know, when we talk of moral, we talk about being able to differentiate right from wrong. Okay, so we need to take care of our children so that they can be able to eventually differentiate what is right and what is wrong, and that is what we call moral care of the child. So in this COVID-19 season, where are you seeing yourself needing to provide moral care, and this time at a higher note than the way we do it? Because the children are in the house, they have all the time, they are exposed, yeah, to more time, more freedom, yeah, and more TV, technology, yeah. So where is your role as the parent during this COVID-19 in providing the moral care of the child, so that your child eventually will be able to differentiate what is right and what is wrong? And then finally we talk about spiritual care. Yeah, we all have that desire as a human being to worship a higher being than us. And in this case we talk of, especially in the Christianity aspect, we talk of worshiping God. Okay, so your role as a parent, you know, parenting involves providing that spiritual care, bringing your child to know who is that higher being, how can they have communion with that higher being, and what does that entail. And we are saying that we are providing all these you know, physical, emotional, moral, and spiritual care. Those are 4 aspects. Yeah, we are providing them in a way, yeah, in a way. I hope you underline that, because you know you can do it and you just do it haphazardly, but it should be done in a way that will lead to a child's total development. Yeah, the holistic care of the child. What are we saying? Don't concentrate on just the physical needs. You know, the fact that children have eaten, they have drunk, they are clothed, they can sleep. Do not just concentrate on that and forget, for example, their emotional needs. Okay? Do not concentrate on just that and forget their spiritual needs. Or sometimes we do the spiritual so well. We bring them to church, we pray, but we forget that there is the moral aspect. So may God help us during this COVID-19 to do it, to provide all these aspects in a way that the holistic child is taken care of. And then after that, we are talking of being able to provide the independence that this child needs. Okay? These children will not be with us forever. In fact, those of us, those of you, let me not say us because I do not have a teenager in the house, but those of you who have teenagers in the house, I'm sure you can attest that they are no longer interested in hanging around you. They are already beginning to become independent. Finally, when they get to young adulthood, 20s and above, they are now seeking to go and start their own homes. Yeah, they are seeking to go and seek friendships outside there, and eventually get married even when we are not there. And finally, so that they can become responsible citizenships, yeah, so that they can be able to fit in the society. They can be able to follow rules, laws, regulations that are being set by the government and by other institutions that they will find themselves in. So even as we begin this series, I want you to begin to ask yourself, what can you do differently? Because those are the questions we shall be answering in the subsequent series. What is it that you need to do differently at this very special time, yeah, so that these 4 areas will still be taken care of in your parenting? And you know, maybe as a preamble to next time, I want to remind you about just the roles of a parent, just mentioning them without going into much detail, so that you can have something to ruminate until we meet next time. And I want to use the name parent to remind you of some of the critical roles of a parent. Yeah, some of them, because they are not all of them, but some of the critical ones. And I want to use the word parent as an acronym. The first letter is P. Yeah, I want to remind you that you are the provider and you are the protector. Okay, so during this COVID-19, how do you need to protect your child? How do you need to provide for your child? The next letter in the word parent is A. A, I want to talk about it as availability. Okay, so one of your other very important roles is to be available in the life of your child. Yeah, be available physically, be available emotionally, be available spiritually. We shall talk more on this later. Letter R, role model. I'm sure you have heard of, you know, monkey see, monkey do, or an apple does not fall far from the tree. Children have this habit of looking and seeing what you are doing, and they imitate almost word for word or action for action. Therefore, you need to be a role model, a good role model. What do you want your child to be? How do you want the behavior of your child to be? Can you be that even at this particular COVID-19 season? Okay. Letter E stands for encourager. One of your roles is to encourage your child. Remember what I told you about my mother. When I lost my best friend, if my mother did not encourage me, if my mother did not walk with me, maybe I would have lost it. I would have lost it psychologically. I would have lost it mentally. Maybe the depression would have set in, and maybe I wouldn't be who I am today. Yeah? So be an encourager to your child. When they play with other children out there and they are harassed by other children, or something happens to them out there and they cannot pace up to the expectations, they become discouraged. So how do you go about it? Be an encourager. Letter N is to be a nurturer. Nurturing involves providing emotional care. Yeah, and we shall talk about this, as I said, in the subsequent series. And then finally, letter T. Okay, letter T, you are the teacher. Okay, you are the teacher of this child. In fact, by the time the children are going to class to face their teacher in class, the teacher is supposed just to add onto what you have already given to the child, especially on the things of this world. You know, how to live, how to interact, the social aspect of the child. That is supposed to be done by you, and God has given us opportunity during this COVID-19 to go back to the basics and provide these roles that I am talking about. So may God help us to be positive, to treat our children as a heritage, to treat our children as a reward, and to provide all these roles that we are talking about. Why? For the benefit of the child. Remember where we started? The holistic nature of the child, the independence, and a responsible citizenry. And when that happens, then you are going to celebrate your parenting. Okay? But if you fail, especially now as they are growing up, then you will get a feedback when they grow old, and the feedback may not please you very well. So let us begin to mold the tree now, and especially this COVID-19, when God has given us the opportunity. So I hope you have learned something. Please give me feedback. Yeah. Give feedback in the YouTube as you watch the YouTube presentation in the YouTube channel. As you watch it in the Facebook, drop a feedback there. If you have liked it, say you have liked it. If there is an area you would want me to do differently, just say so. We all grow because of the feedback. And you can even talk to me directly so that I can be able to grow and I can be able to provide a better presentation that will be of benefit to all of us. So let us take this moment. Let us go to the Lord. He is the one who gave us these children. He has their destiny. He knows what they are supposed to be. And He's the one who will guide us as to how to go about our parenting, so that our children can reach the destiny that He created for them. Remember, He's the author and finisher of our faith and of every good work that He begins in us. And also remember that He's the one who gives us the strength and the ability. In the book of Philippians, Paul talks about, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And so it might look so difficult, especially during this COVID-19, to do our parenting, which is already difficult even without the COVID. But with Christ, we can do all things because He's the one who makes it possible for us. And therefore, let us close our eyes and believe as we ask God to guide us. Let us pray. Father, we humble ourselves before your feet. We thank you that you have desired and seen it fit to make us parents, oh Lord. Whether it is through our biological children, whether it is through our adoptive children, whether it is through the fact that we have children who are under us and we take care of them. We want to thank you and we want to worship you. We want to pray that you will help us to consider them as a heritage, to consider them as a reward, so that we may take care of them passionately, that we may protect them, that we may do all the wrongs that you have reminded us, O Lord, even as we remember that we may be finding difficulties in providing for them because of what this COVID-19 season has brought so many challenges that are affecting even our resources. But we want to believe that it is you who gives us, it is you who opens doors and opportunities for us. And we want to believe that you will continue to give us provisions for our children, oh Lord. Help us as we learn how to parent them, that you may open our eyes, that even your Holy Spirit will talk to us, that He will teach us, and He will follow up whatever it is that we are learning, so that we may put it into practice, so that our children will grow up healthy, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and even morally, oh Lord, and that they will become responsible citizens, oh Lord, who will bring pleasure to us when they grow old, and even when we grow old ourselves. And therefore we thank you, Lord, we worship you and we honor you, for it is in Jesus' name we have prayed and we have believed. Amen and amen. So thank you, and we hope to see you next week as we continue with this series. Remember, give me feedback. Even if you just read it, listened and liked it, just say there, I have liked it. If you can be able to pick one thing that you have learned, just drop a note there, and I will feel more motivated and I will feel more encouraged to continue with this series. God bless you so much.